Dr. Upasana Gala, a neuroscientist and founder of Evolve Brain Training. Dr. Gala works with executives and high performers to optimize brain function for emotional regulation, focus, and long-term cognitive health. Can I get a round of applause to welcome Dr. Upasana?
So most of you in here are doing more for your health than any generations before you. You are meticulously tracking a bunch of metrics, scheduling your productivity to the last minute. Despite all of this optimization, anxiety, burnout, insomnia are at an all-time high. So something's not adding up. And when things don't feel right, the first instinct is to think, okay, maybe we're missing one more hack, one more supplement, one more protocol. But what if the problem isn't what you're missing, but what you're actually not getting, which is some quiet? We're living in the noisiest era in human history. Think about what is the last thing you do when you go to bed. Think about how you wake up in the morning, before your feet hit the floor, before you see your partner's face. We are bombarded with information constantly. This is not just a morning problem. The average person checks their phone almost 100 times a day. That's every 10 minutes during your waking hours. We're consuming an enormous amount of data and processing 5 times as much information as we did 30 years ago. So all of this, the emails, the messages, the deadlines, the reels, the content, all of that collapses into one neurological problem, and that's chronic neural noise. This relentless noise isn't just annoying, it's literally rewiring our neural architecture in a troubling way. It's shrinking our attention spans, hijacking our creativity. So before I go any further, I want to make it clear, it's not that your brain is doing something wrong. It's that your brain is doing one thing too much for too long. To understand what that means, we need to know how the brain operates. So our brain is operating through different brain states throughout the day. And none of them are good or bad. They're just different modes. So we have the beta, which is the doing state. Beta is not the villain. Beta builds civilizations. Beta gets things done. The problem is not beta. The problem is never leaving beta. Health is not one fixed ideal state. Health is flexibility, the ability to move between states when needed. Then we have alpha. Alpha is the bridge state. It's the relaxed awareness state. When you're just chilling on a beach or you're on vacation, your brain should be in alpha state. Theta is the creative state. It's where insights happen. It's where creativity and healing overlap. The problem is that we have basically engineered theta out of modern life. So what does that mean? The biggest irony of modern life is that we are more stimulated than ever, yet less inspired. And the reason for that is because we have lost a very important human skill, which is this ability to be bored. I know it sounds silly, but boredom is not the absence of distraction. Boredom is the absence of directed attention. When you stop constantly feeding your brain inputs, screens, tasks, podcasts, something really interesting happens neurologically. Your brain doesn't shut down. It actually turns inward. That's when the brain starts making connections between all kinds of things it has learned over time. It's the time when the brain enters a theta dominant state and activates the default mode network. In these moments, what happens? The brain stitches together memories. It links old ideas to new ideas, and it actually helps you make sense of your world as a whole. Our brain is constantly collecting information, conversations, experiences, books, emotions, but it doesn't actually integrate everything all the time. Integration requires space. That's why your best ideas come when you're in the shower, or just before you fall asleep, or when you're taking a walk. And it seems like those ideas just emerged. You didn't consciously decide them. Those ideas didn't just happen. They had been forming in your brain for days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years. But it's when you give your brain that time, safety, and freedom to wander, that's when the brain can make connection between all the things, all the information it has collected over the years, and come up with creative solutions or novel ideas. The biggest tragedy of modern life isn't stress. It's the fact that we have removed the conditions where insight can happen naturally. And theta isn't just important for creativity and insights. It actually plays a very important role in maintenance. So it helps you enhance neuroplasticity, which I will talk about. Adults create 3 to 5 times more neural connections when they're in the theta state. It also reduces inflammation significantly. Memory consolidation increases by 40%. Yet, the average adult spends less than 5 minutes in the theta state in today's modern life, outside of going to sleep and waking up. But children, they spend hours in it. So I would like to invite you guys to spend 1 minute in theta with me right now. Sounds good? Okay. So I'll give you 60 seconds. Just close your eyes and no agenda. Don't try any meditation techniques. Don't try to clear your mind. Just do nothing. Sit with whatever arises and notice the discomfort of doing nothing. Okay, you can open your eyes. How was that? Uncomfortable? So that urge, if you felt it, to reach for your phone or plan what you're going to do next, it's not just restlessness. If meditation feels hard or boredom feels unbearable, it's not that your brain is bad at it. It's just that your brain has been trained very, very well, but just not in your favor. So this is sometimes when people get discouraged and they're like, oh, but this is just how I am. Here's what I love about neuroscience. Your brain doesn't care about what your age is. Brain doesn't care how long you felt a certain way. Your brain only cares about repetition. And that's where neuroplasticity comes in. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to rewire itself by creating new neural connections through repetition. Your brain is literally rewiring itself right this moment while listening to these words. The question isn't whether your brain can change. The question is whether you are directing that change intentionally. So, would you guys like to practice a neuroplasticity exercise right now? Yeah? Okay. I'm just gonna put my mic down for a minute, and I need your hands for this one. So, if you guys can make an okay sign with one hand and the peace sign with the other. Yeah? Very nice. Now, make the okay sign with the other hand and peace sign with your first hand. How was that? Easy, fun, awkward? Yeah? That awkwardness isn't failure. That awkwardness is actually growth and learning. Yes, it will be hard today, but if you do it a couple of times, it will get easier. That's neuroplasticity and action. And the point of this exercise is not to get good at doing this, but it's to encourage neuroplasticity in your brain. Encouraging neuroplasticity through learning is one of the best ways you can keep your brain young and flexible. And learning happens best when your brain is in a regulated state. So I will tell you a repeated pattern that I keep seeing in my clients, my high-performing clients, my CEOs, my MDs. They come to me and they're like, hey, I don't care about all of this emotional regulation stuff. I have stress all the time. I don't care about anxiety and stress management. I just want you to help me focus better. Help me improve my performance. My brain doesn't work like it used to. Make me perform better. And when they tell me this, I smile and I think to myself, I've seen this movie 1,000 times because I know what's going to happen. We're not going to train cognition or performance or memory or learning. We're going to train regulating the nervous system. After a little pushback from them, a few sessions later, they come back to me and they're like, hey, I'm sleeping much better, my mind feels quieter. A few more sessions later, they come back and tell me, hey, I can focus better, I'm performing better under pressure, my learning has improved, I can retain information better, all without us not working on their cognition at all. So this is what I mean, that learning happens best from a regulated place. When your brain is in survival mode or chronic stress mode, it reallocates resources away from learning and integration towards vigilance. But when the brain is regulated, then the brain has resources for deep learning and integration. So it's not that your brain learns better from a regulated state, it's not that the brain learns more from a regulated state, but it learns better and it learns faster. Yeah? So, if neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself and change, what sort of experiences change the brain most effectively? Not all experiences are the same. The brain rewires fastest when there's 3 things present: novelty, low threat, and curiosity. And there is one mental mode that combines all of these 3 things, and that's creativity. Would you guys like to join me in a creativity exercise? Yeah? Okay, so I'm gonna give you a name of an object, and if you have a notepad, you can use that, or you can write on your phone notes app. I'll give you 30 seconds, and I want you to write as many uses for that object as you can. Try to not stick to the obvious ones, go for the weird ones. Yeah? Ready? Okay. Okay? So the object is a coffee mug. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay. All right. So let's go through some of these. Who got more than 5? Okay, very good. Who got more than 10? Nice. Anyone with more than 15? 12? Okay, more than 10. Tell me a couple of yours. Okay. So, all right. So, before we go to some of these other answers, I want to talk about what was happening internally when you did this exercise. So, at some point, many of you probably thought that, oh, that's silly, that doesn't make sense, you can't really use a coffee mug for this. That moment is not lack of creativity. It's actually a cognitive habit. And there is a name in neuroscience and psychology for that, and it's called functional fixedness. Functional fixedness is what happens when the brain is so efficient at knowing what something is that it cannot imagine what else it could be. Yeah? So, children generate an average of 15 to 20 creative uses, but adults, only 5 to 10. Functional fixedness is important because it doesn't just apply to how you feel about objects. It can also apply to how you feel about problems, ideas. You think that maybe there's only one correct framing, only one familiar way forward, only one right solution. Functional fixedness can also apply to people. You lock them in a certain role. And most tragically, functional fixedness can also apply to yourself. Oh, I'm just not that creative. I'm just bad at learning. That's just how I am. That's functional fixedness applied to identity. And children are really good at this game is because they haven't yet learned functional fixedness. They are less afraid of being wrong. Their brains are optimized for exploration, not efficiency. So this is a lesson we really can take from children. And if creativity requires low threat and neuroplasticity requires flexibility, then one of the best ways to regulate both of these things is something that adults abandon far too early, and that's play. Play is not just a luxury. Play is literally how our brain changes safely. So when you engage in genuine play, and by genuine play, I mean something done for its own sake, without performance pressure or without outcome, that's when the brain feels something powerful. I am safe enough to explore, to wander. And when that happens, when the brain feels safe, something remarkable happens. Stress hormones decrease, cognitive flexibility increases, and creative capacity expands. And again, there are a bunch of lessons here we can take from children. They teach us that curiosity is not a personality trait. It's actually a brain state. Cognitive rigidity is one of the biggest predictors of mental decline. Cognitive flexibility is what protects the brain, keeps the brain active, young, neuroplastic. And adults who practice play regularly show 40% higher creativity. And one of the biggest things that we can learn from children is their ability to be in the now. So what does play mean for adults? Play is any activity where the process matters more than the outcome, where you're not worried about judgment or performance or anything other than the joy of doing that activity. So it could mean creative expression, painting, writing, drawing, music, any creative outlet where you do it for the joy of doing it, not for performance. It can mean social play, things that you do with your friends that invites laughter, spontaneity. Physical activities that feel like adventure, not exercise. So dancing, hiking, 10,000 steps a day feels like a chore during normal life. But when you're traveling, It's a fun afternoon. And you're doing something with your own hands, like cooking, gardening, woodworking, crafting. Your brain doesn't care what the activity is. It cares about what state your brain is while you're doing that. The problem is, all of us intellectually understand all of this, but most of us don't know what state our brain is actually living in. Are we always stuck in beta? Is our theta virtually absent? Is one hemisphere underperforming? You can't really train or optimize what you can't measure. That's where QEEG brain mapping comes in. It's a comprehensive checkup for your brain. It helps you identify dysregulated brain patterns. What's happening to your alpha, beta, your theta? It reveals stress or anxiety or focus at the neural level. And it creates a baseline for targeted intervention. And if your brain has been stuck in survival mode for years, you can't just think your way out of it. You need to train it like a muscle. And that's where neurofeedback comes in. It's the ultimate rewiring tool. It teaches your brain how to regulate itself. And the way it works is very simple. First, you measure the brain in real time, see what it's doing. Then you reward the brain every time it reaches the desired brain state. And then you repeat this process until neuroplasticity is activated and the brain is able to maintain those optimal states naturally. That's it. That's how simple it is. And this is the way, the biggest thing that neurofeedback helps with is it makes your brain more resilient so that no matter what life throws at it, it can function the way it needs to. And it makes your brain more flexible so it can move between those states as and when needed. And the results speak for themselves. 72% of the people that come to us for anxiety within 20 sessions are able to see reduced rumination. With children, we see 2.5x improvement in sustained attention. Almost everybody sees an improvement in their quality of sleep. But very interestingly, when we do theta training, people report feeling more frequent aha moments. So I'm going to leave you guys with my 3 takeaways. 1, never stop learning, but from a regulated place. All the optimization in the world won't help if your brain is not calm. The second one is probably going to be, sounds like the easiest one, but it's going to be the hardest one for people in this room, is practicing boredom. This is where integration happens. Your brain needs that unstructured time to process and integrate, consolidate, make sense of everything it has taken in as an upload. And the third one is the lesson that we take from kids. Be playful. Play isn't luxury or a reward for hard work. It's literally protecting your brain from rigidity and cognitive decline. So I want to end with saying that longevity in the brain isn't about adding more stuff, but it's actually about subtracting the noise. And I'm ready to take questions, and if you want to come see us at booth 27, we're doing live brain maps.